Good evening and welcome. My name is Connie Meny. I'm the communications manager here at the City of Marysville, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here tonight for Mayor Nehring's State of the City presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you don't know, there are restrooms that go out this hallway and down the hall, but that kind of behind us, and a water fountain. If for some reason we had to evacuate, we would all walk down the stairs and meet out in Comfort Park in the rain. So let's hope that doesn't happen. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help. And we're going to start off with a little year in review video, and then Mayor Nehring will be right up to speak with you. Thanks. Jon Nehring has been mayor of Marysville since 2010. Before that, he had several years of business management experience in the private sector. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Jon Nehring.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie. I do want to recognize a few people as we get started. I first of all want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day. It is great to see a crowd like this here. It really makes this a lot more rewarding to have such a great crowd here. And then I know we have a number of people joining us online. So thank you. I know everybody's busy and taking time out to learn about what's going on in your community. I really appreciate that. I want to thank Connie. Connie's getting ready to retire, and Connie's been a part of every one of these State of the City addresses for the last several years. And she just does a great job. This address wouldn't come off without Connie. And so I just want, if we could give her a round of applause in her last one, that'd be great. Also would like to recognize some of our council members that are here. Councilmember Peter Candelius, Steve Muller, Kelly Richards, and I know I saw Dan Perkins here. Yeah, Dan Perkins, our newest council member. Dan's doing a great job. And we also have council member Camille Norton, council president Michael Stevens, and council member Mark James, I know has another meeting this evening. So appreciate the work of our city council. A lot of the stuff you'll hear about tonight, they're intimately involved in, of course. And then our department directors, if I could just recognize them real quick. Human Resources Director, Megan Hodgson, our city attorney, John Walker, and we've got Jeff Laycock, our Engineering and Services Department Director, our City Administrator, Jennifer Stapleton, and with our courts, we've got Susie Elsner here, Court Administrator, thank you for that, and Tara Mizell, Parks, Culture, and Recreation, and our Fire Chief for the Regional Fire Authority, Ned Vanderpool. Appreciate Ned coming in here. Because we're here tonight, Ned can't beat me in tennis like he always does. And then Stephen Doherty back here, our IS Director, and thanks to the IS team for helping run this. Chief Scarpin runs Chief of Police, and Assistant Chief Lawless is back there too. Did I miss any of the directors? All right. Thank you for that. I see County Council Member Mead in the audience. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. And I want to just acknowledge and thank my wife, Mary Ann, for her support. She's here along with my daughter, Kristen, and my mom, Diane. Nate and the kids had wanted to come in Savannah, but there's some sickness going through their household, so they weren't able to make it. And then my youngest son, Nick's out of town. So appreciate the family support that I get as well. So as we begin the state of the city, we always begin every year the state of the city with the budget because you can't operate anything without a city budget. We take your tax dollars very, very seriously in the city of Marysville. We know that you work hard for that money. And we know that when you turn some of that over to us, you expect it to be spent and dealt with responsibly. This graph shows you a little bit about what goes on with the city budget. It's always interesting. Before I was in elected office, I didn't realize that only about 10% of your property taxes goes to the city of Marysville. So a dime out of every dollar of property taxes that you pay goes to the city. There's other things, obviously the school district has a large chunk and some to the Regional Fire Authority. We've got library and county and state. There's a whole bunch of other places where property taxes go, but about 10% goes to the city. I was just gonna listen to myself for a while. And then when you look at the property taxes and the budget as a whole, you'll find out that essentially you've got a general fund and then enterprise funds. And why that's important is because the general fund is the one that we have a lot of discretion on. The mayor presents a budget every year. We have a 2-year budget in the city of Marysville. So this will be a budget year where we plan for 2027 and 28. We're currently living under the 2025-26 budget. But when I present that budget to the council then has final authority over the purse of the city, like in all other forms of government. So the council is ultimately responsible for passing the budget. They'll take my budget, review it, and they can do whatever they want with it. What we try to do here at the city of Marysville in the interest of good cooperation with our legislative branches, we bring the council in on the front end. And so we'll be meeting here in just about a month to begin that process with the city council to incorporate their priorities as well into the mayor's budget and their feedback right at the front end. And when the council and I look at this type of thing, the general fund is again the one where we have the most flexibility. That's streets, that's parks, police, a lot of the things and a lot of the services that you see around us, that's general fund. And you see that kind of broken out on this slide here with this pie chart. And then you have your enterprise funds. And those are things like water, sewer, garbage, Cedar Crest Golf Course, and other enterprise funds. So for instance, a city cannot take money that you send in with your water, sewer, garbage bill and go hire police officers with it. And it's an important distinction. So you're paying fees with the majority of the budget that you see, or you're paying a fee that has to be used in that department to pay for a city service, a wastewater treatment plant, clean water, garbage services, and all of that. And so that's just a little distinction we like to point out. We have about $188 million budget. Again, that's the 2026 budget. We operate on a 2-year budget cycle. our financial philosophy, and I appreciate the city council so much. I think we share this philosophy of really looking into the long term, the idea that we want stability in the city of Marysville. All around you see, certain things happening in cities where there's budget issues, and those happen where you're having to sell off certain assets or lay people off or do certain things. And no one's immune from that. I mean, in any type of an economic downturn or for various reasons that can happen. We try to look ahead and make decisions based on what we can sustain. In other words, if we're looking, do we need to hire X amount of employees in this department? We try to look 4, 5, 6 years down the road, myself and the city council and our city team, and say, is that sustainable? And if it's not, then we try to hold off and say, well, we're not going to do that until we know we can sustain that outside of a really difficult situation, like a really significant recession or significant inflation or things like that. I will say that it's challenging right now with inflation. The inflation we've experienced over the last several years has really driven up costs in the private sector, for private businesses, for families that are really struggling to make ends meet. And that's the same with the city. The projects that we had budgeted out for a certain amount of money can easily come in now 10, 20, 30% above that, just due to inflation. And so that's something that impacts our budget. It creates a structural situation that we're going to have to address, the council and I, here come the latter part of this year when a final budget is passed, and look into the future and say, how do we kind of right size this to make sure that in this new reality it's sustainable? And obviously we operate with a balanced budget. And I will say we've tried to be really responsible too with your tax dollars. I appreciate the council's work on this. I share this philosophy. The state allows a 1% tax increase on your property taxes. The city hasn't taken that in over a decade. Doesn't mean we'll never take that, but we believe that if we can possibly sustain it without increasing our portion of your property taxes, we'll do that. And our citizens have been very generous that when we have a need, we try to, a lot of times we'll take it to the citizens. We'll talk about that a little bit later, like the Transportation Benefit District. And we asked, do you want to vote for that? When we were trying to build a new police station and jail, like, we'll take it to the voters. We'll see what they want to do. And they passed it, and you all passed it. And so we appreciate that. And we try to hold up our end and saying, well, we're going to try not to raise taxes here in this building unless we, are absolutely in a situation where that's necessary. So that's a little bit about budget, and happy to take some more questions on that as they might come up later. Public safety. I know that this is of critical importance to everybody in the room too. Many of the emails and the conversations I have at coffee clutches or out in the community are around public safety in neighborhoods, safety all over the city, parks and whatnot. I will say the chart here is on incidents, police response incidents. It's interesting to look at this 5-6 year snapshot. When you look at 2020, and then you see we went into the pandemic and everybody was home and crime rates fell all throughout the country, and then they kind of spiked there in 2023 and 24. I will say, we did have some state laws in 2023, 24 area around legalizing drugs and not allowing police pursuits that, I think were, there were some good intentions there, but they kind of hurt our crime fighting abilities to their credit. A number of mayors and we formed Snohomish County mayors, almost every single mayor in Snohomish County across the entire political spectrum formed a group that still exists today that I co-lead with Mayor Franklin and Everett called Mayors for Public Safety. And we spent some time, particularly with our state legislators that represent Snohomish County, asking them to adjust those laws. And a lot of other mayors across the region did the same thing. And I'm really grateful that they did. They did adjust those laws. And I think they're more workable now, more workable for our police forces across the county. And it's resulted in some stabilization and even some drop in crime as well. But that should not diminish also the work on the ground by our police force here in Marysville that just does amazing work. You're going to see some stats here on the next slide that really gets to that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the incidents. Just over half of these incidents are about 51% are 911 calls. Those are response. That's what our police responds to, as you well know. But what's amazing about that, and I'm even surprised by this, that means about 48, 49% of the work on these incidents is proactive work by your police officers in this city. That means they're out getting into neighborhoods, performing traffic patrols, investigating suspicious activity, proactive police work. That's almost half of this. So I've been out with the chief where we've driven around, and the chief's even done this, right? He'll see something that looks suspicious and call it in. And I remember one time I was out kind of just driving around with the chief and called it in, and the officer called back and said, yeah, there was a warrant for that person's arrest that where it did look suspicious. And so that's the kind of work that really helps proactively keep you all safe here in the community. Moving to reducing crime. This is the first year in about 2 or 3 years I've been able to say this. We're honest with these stats. We've shown you when they go up, when the crime rates are going up. We're also going to show you when we've had some success here this year with some of these long-term strategies and some help from the state. Crimes against persons down over 7%. Crimes against property is the big one. Property crimes had skyrocketed a few years ago. A lot of that's tied to the drug issue. People stealing to get money for drugs, things of that nature, down over 23%. Crimes against society down over 17%. So crimes against persons are just that, against a specific individual versus a crime against society, not against any one single individual. But great work by our team. I want to thank Chief and the entire team for the great work that they do. Our staffing levels continue to be something that we work hard at. There's a little bit of good news on that front too. I've come to you in other years where we've had really big gaps in that, 12, 14, 15 or more open positions. Again, our council's been very generous at funding police positions. So we have the budget money there. The struggle has been in finding people to fill those positions. And that's not exclusive to Marysville. That's all throughout the county. I think the sheriff's office would tell you the same thing as a number of cities. But we have hired 11 commissioned officers in 2025, 5 custody officers and 5 support staff, which means our current openings are down to about 5, which I haven't been able to say that in the state of city for, I think, at least 2 or 3 years. And we only have, I think, 1 or 2 custody positions open for our jail. So that's a good news story. We still have a little bit of a pipeline issue in that we have a bunch of the new folks that we've hired that are getting ready to go into their training. And that takes about 6 months. And then you get about 2 or 3 months of on-the-job work. So it tends to be 8, 9 months before we really get them out there working. So there'll be a little bit of a gap till later this year when we realize the full potential of that. You see a photo here with our K-9 officers. We did more in the loss of retired K-9s, copper and steel, here just a couple of months ago. Some of you might have come out to the ceremony we had for that. We do offer condolences to officers Derek Oates and Brad Smith, who are their handlers. That's a tough thing. These officers, the dogs live with them. They become part of their family. So it isn't as if they just come here and work with them for 8 hours a day and then go home without them. And so it was a tough thing, and we thank them for their work. And of course, the dogs did tremendous service to this city over the years they served. Late last year, we welcomed in new canines, Charlie and Kona, and we swore them in at a city council meeting. That was a lot of fun. And officers Kaylin Roberts and TJ San Miguel get to take over and work with them. The K9 program started here in 2002. It wouldn't be possible without community support. Our police foundation supports that. The community supported it. A lot of businesses in town support it. So thank you for that. Our city jail, jails aren't something that's glamorous to talk about. We all wish we didn't need jails, but we're not at that reality. You're really fortunate to be in a municipality that does have a facility like this. Linwood and Marysville, the only 2 that do. If you live in a city that doesn't have a municipal jail, first of all, you're spending a lot more money because you're having to take them to another facility, which takes your officers off the road, often 3 to 4 hours at a time while they are forced to wait for the check-in process and all that. So you have fewer on-patrol officers in your community. And then it's, you're contracting out, right? So they're helping to pay their bills by charging you more. So we don't have to do that in Marysville. So we save your taxpayer dollars on that. And we're in a position where we can tell those out in the community that are committing crimes that you commit a crime here in Marysville, you're going to go to jail. We're not going to do the catch and release thing because we don't have the ability. We can't afford to take an officer off the road for a certain amount of hours, or we can't find an affordable option or something like that. So people know that we mean business here in Marysville. And I think that's important. It's an accountability measure that's important. And it also allows us to do a few things that I'll talk about here in a little bit that I think help get to the root of the problem and help even those that are committing crimes and dealing with these kind of things get their life back on track as well. The number of bookings in 2025 was down about 3%, so that's good news. About 2/3 were booked in on criminal charges and about 1/3 on outstanding warrants, and you see some stats there to go with that. In 2023, our council approved what's called mandatory minimum sentences. This is an important part of our strategy too, for people convicted of different crimes on multiple times. And in 2024, they strengthened that law. This applies, and it was designed to get at, again, a lot of the drug issues that we were facing. There's certain crimes. We picked 5 of them that really are tied to the drug issue throughout the county and really throughout the country. Criminal trespass, malicious mischief, destruction of property, vandalism, graffiti, things like that. Theft 3, drug possession, and public drug consumption. I know when I hear people that'll call me, moms that might be walking down on our EB Waterfront Park, and they say, hey, we saw someone down there doing fentanyl in front of our kids, something we don't want in our community. So we can now send an officer out and have some real teeth behind that. Please do call 911 if you see those kind of things. That's just one example. But how this works is if you're convicted 3 times of one of those crimes over the course of 5 years, then we're saying it's time for a timeout, right? You've been caught and convicted once, caught and convicted twice, gone out and done it again and caught and convicted a 3rd time. Who knows how many times you've done one of these crimes and not gotten caught and convicted too in between all of that. But we're saying something's not working. You're cycling in and out of jail. Something's not working. A lot of times if it's tied to the drug issue, when you look at the average jail stay, maybe outside of these mandatory minimums, it's often about 4 days, 3 to 4 days. So you get somebody in who's got a drug problem, they are not ready to make a good decision for themselves after 3 or 4 days. So they're back out on the street looking for the next high right away. And the cycle just continues. So in that instance, we're saying we've seen here that this just is not working. Time out. We're bringing you in for an extended amount of time. The goal there is to say, hopefully, if you got a drug or some type of substance issue, you get dried out a little bit. It might take 10, 12, 14 days. We get a social worker in there. Everybody has access to a social worker. You have nursing care, medical care in our facility. You have access to Suboxone and other things that can help ease you down from the issues that you're facing. And then we hope at some point during that stay, earlier the better for all of us, that you decide to accept our offer to go into a treatment program. And if you do that, go into the treatment program, not just go in for a day so you can get out of jail and walk back out on the streets, but you go and complete it, a 30-day program or whatever it is, then we have no need to bring you back to finish that sentence. You've done what we wanted. You've hopefully started the path of getting your life back on track. We have great success stories with that. We also have people that have stumbled and fallen back, and that's just a reality. We persevere. We're willing to send people through a 2nd and a 3rd time if necessary. But that's how that works, and that's why I think mandatory minimums is an important part of our strategy. Council added a 45-day minimum for a 4th offense in 5 years this year as well. The most common crimes that we deal with on that are theft 3, criminal trespass, and public drug consumption. So I talked a little bit about it, but this is the CARES team that helps, on the compassion end of this. We lead with compassion, but we have accountability in Marysville. If you don't accept the help, you're going to spend the whole time in jail, or you're going to fulfill your sentence. But this team tries to work with folks both out in the community or in our facility here that are dealing particularly with addiction issues. Last year, the CARES team, you can see some of the stats there. I guess I don't need to read through them, but over 300 client contacts, which is amazing. Some of the assessments and the inpatient treatment and outpatient treatment are down a little bit. I think those numbers are still remarkable. 87 people in inpatient treatment in our community, 26 into outpatient after that, 53 people with housing secured. That's a remarkable job that these 2 individuals have done. The alcohol assessments and some of the treatment things are down due to severe staffing shortages with our provider. So there's a little bit of a bottleneck there. So we have since addressed that by finding a 2nd provider that I think in 2026 will allow us to get our numbers up even a little bit more than that, or hopefully even a lot more than that, to help people. The root cause of the problem, if it is an addiction issue, it helps these individuals get their life on track. It helps relieve you in the community of maybe some of the crimes that you were experiencing because of that. So it's a win-win. We're fortunate to have our own city prosecution services and our own city municipal court as well. That's part of the solution. Our legal prosecution team resolved nearly 3,000 criminal cases this year that were referred by police. I want to thank Attorney Walker. Having our own in-house legal allows us to do that much more efficiently for you. Again, we used to pay several years ago, my first years as mayor, for outside contracted services for an attorney, which means you're paying a hefty hourly fee. We have our internal services now, so we don't have hourly things. We don't have people worried about even reaching out to the attorney because we're going to incur a fee. So that team does a great job. And 3,000 criminal cases is a massive load. And that's just one of the things that they do. They also help track the effectiveness of the mandatory minimum sentencing law that I just gave you. I get a report every single Monday morning with that information on it and a whole host of other policing information that our police department, and then when it comes to the mandatory minimum, our legal team helps track. Municipal court, we had a 50% increase in attendance at our court hearings this year. Cases are resolved more quickly when those that are charged get a public defender quickly, so we appreciate that. The probation department received a state grant for post-conviction compliance, which is an important part of their strategy too. This will help pay for things like home detention, court-ordered classes, in compliance with all kinds of judicial orders. So great job by the team getting that grant. Mental health and therapeutic court, I've tried to attend all of these graduations. I think I've made most of them. I appreciate Susie always getting that on my calendar. People who qualify to have their criminal charges dismissed when they successfully complete a therapy program that's designed with the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the judge, all three working as a team. It's really rewarding and really emotionally as well to see these folks that graduate from these therapeutic courts. They've often had really difficult situations, but they've decided to turn their lives around. And this is not a short process. They have to go through a pretty lengthy process. They make it through that, and then the judge is able to kind of clean the record up and get them back out and hopefully get them in a self-sufficient situation. The courts also issued 270 search warrants, about half for our Marysville PD, so that keeps them busy also. Hazard mitigation plan. I should start by saying we're fortunate to have our own emergency management department here. We're a large enough city to do that. And so one of the things that happens with that is we create our own hazard mitigation plan. Sarah Lavelle and her team, Cassidy, work on this. It includes a hazard risk assessment and strategies to increase all sorts of community resilience throughout the city. Included in their work and in this area is 65 public engagement activities. One of those is our CERT, that's Community Emergency Response Team training, in conjunction with Chief Vanderpool and the Marysville Fire District. These are really popular classes. People that go through the CERT class it's so fun to talk to them because they're energetic, excited. They become then really essential volunteers to the city. Should we experience an emergency that we can call them in on. Preparedness trainings for adults and seniors at the community center. There was also some held in the community. I went to one that Cassidy taught out at one of our retirement homes here in the community. It was really great to see just explain to them how they can be prepared for these kind of things. And they really appreciated that as well. Monthly Marysville Tulalip amateur radio club exercises. That club's out at a lot of our events out here in the summer. You can see what the ham radio operators and stuff do. And so we really appreciate that as well. Marysville Ready neighborhood groups as well. This is where we go into neighborhoods and try to help you get prepared for something going on in your neighborhood, identifying maybe medical professionals that are in your neighborhood, others that could help in a serious response, how you might get resources in. So that's a way to access that if you're interested in your neighborhood. Marysville Ready Business as well, similar, it's just with businesses. So what's new this year is we registered 42 emergency workers who support large events for our community. New as well is emergency volunteer support group to support mass care efforts in our community when they're needed. And we conducted an annual shakeout drill and Stop the Bleed trainings here as well. You can sign up for Marysville Alerts. We had 542, I think, new subscribers this year. In English, we had 34 in Spanish as well. So we offer multilingual with that. Vibrant city. Marysville is a vibrant and a growing city. I was just talking with some folks here tonight before this about that. We see a lot of housing growth in Marysville. We see a lot of business growth in Marysville. A lot of people, and that's not unique to Marysville, it's really the Puget Sound is just exploding. It's interesting when you travel around other areas of the country, there's a lot of communities where people are leaving, and there's places where people are moving in. One thing that's I think is important for the citizens to know and communities to know is that there's a lot of times the council and I sit back and think it'd be nice to slow this down and let us catch up. A lot of people think when we have a lot of housing and residential growth that the city's just raking in a lot of money. And that's just not the case. Residential growth barely, if at all, pays for itself. In some instances, it's an actual net negative on the city budget. Now, a sales tax growth, that does pay for itself. For instance, if you bring in a commercial entity, our auto row out there in North Marysville, that type of thing does probably net out positive for the city. That's why we've tried to balance commercial growth in these times so that you don't have a hefty property tax increase. So the city's portion of your property tax increase hasn't increased, the city's portion, that 10%, in over 10 years. Was an intentional strategy of the city council, myself, and city staff to try to get commercial growth so that those tax dollars could subsidize what would ordinarily be public tax dollars. That way, people from outside the city are helping to fund the services that we all need here in the community. It's really interesting. When I first ran for city council, now when I go out and doorbell the community and talk at coffee clutches and community groups, a lot of the questions are around public safety and traffic, rightfully so. Those are the same questions I have we all live here too. But amazingly, when I first ran for city council, it wasn't even close. The thing I heard most was we would like to shop in Marysville. All our big ticket items, we have to go out of the city for, cars and big appliances and things like that. And so bringing in some of these entities where you can do all your shopping in Marysville has really a service as well to the citizens. But getting back to housing. So how housing works is the Growth Management Act passed in the 1990s. The state about every 8 years requires cities to update their comprehensive plan. We just did that last year. The council took the staff recommendations. They made some changes that they're allowed to and ultimately had to pass that. But the state gives you a growth target as a city, whether you're Lake Stevens or Arlington or Marysville or whoever you are, you have to hit that growth target. You have to zone for that growth target. You have to zone for it. Now, if nobody comes and builds, then that's no problem. So if they say, hey, your growth target over the next 8 years is 5,000 residents or 8,000 residents, whatever it is, you have to zone for that. City council has to zone for that. Our city staff has to zone and plan for that. And then if builders come in and comply with all the state and city zoning requirements and meet all those, you cannot deny the permit. So it's one thing to say, I know sometimes they say, well, just stop denying all the permits. You can't legally do that. You would lose that on day one in court. And so we have to zone for it to meet the growth target. If they come and they meet all the zoning requirements, they have to be allowed to build. And so sometimes, like I say, when we would like to slow it down, let some infrastructure, let some things catch up, there's very limited options at the local level to do that. And I'll be honest with you, the state is taking more and more of those options away. We shared this in last year's State of the City and at multiple coffee clutches. And I know the council members brought it up in multiple council meetings. There were state laws that went through that passed where you are now, it's now allowed for developers to put duplexes and fourplexes in single family neighborhoods. And so 5 years from now, if you have a duplex or a fourplex in your neighborhood and you come to a city council meeting and say, why did you guys allow this? It won't be that we allowed it. It'll be that a state law mandated it. And, we educated people, we tried to educate people that, maybe some people want that. I mean, and there are probably some people that say, hey, we've got a housing shortage. We don't mind having duplexes and fourplexes in our neighborhood and whatnot. We just think that should be left to the local authority so that we can hear from our citizens. And if our citizens come and say, yeah, there's certain areas of the city where that makes sense, then we represent you. We can implement that. But there might be some areas where citizens and your elected officials decide that's not the right area for our community. But when more and more control goes to the state level and away from the local level, that's something that is a little bit concerning. And that's not just here in Marysville. I can tell you at our Association of Washington Cities events, almost every mayor and council member that I talk to believes the same thing all across the political spectrum. We understand the heart behind it. And I think it's a genuine desire to fix a housing shortage. I'm not saying that the motivation is wrong. It's not. I mean, I know our state legislators have the right motivation there. It's just, we have to be a little bit careful maybe how we do it and how much control we take away from local authorities in that, I believe. And so that's how that works. Moving on to the business a little bit, we try to share with you new businesses coming and those that have opened with this slide. We're really excited that we continue to attract new businesses here. We try to be a business-friendly community. Our community development department does a great job with that. The Cascade Industrial Center is of particular importance. That's a job center for us. That's that area out in North Marysville from about 136th on into Arlington through the Arlington Airport area and beyond. The council and I were really diligent about protecting this over the years for industrial land because we are a bedroom community. And our vision is that those kids growing up in our community right now, maybe they're in the RAP program at Marysville-Pilchuck High School or who knows where they're at, or even adults that are in a career right now. We want to present an opportunity to have more and more family wage jobs right here in our community or very nearby that you can work at so everybody doesn't have to commute. So we continue to see companies like Ashandia, Gravitics, and Pepsi, all kinds move out into the Cascade Industrial Center and provide new jobs opportunities. And some of the other things we're doing, if you are looking for a permit or if as a business or a resident, new online permitting portal that we've just opened up here in the last year lets you apply for residential and commercial permits, land use, fire, and other miscellaneous permits, and request an inspection all online through the city website. So you don't have to come down here and do all that and fill out a bunch of papers. You can track your permit status online as it goes through the process as well. Our new permit services division will give you a specific point of contact person for the project start to finish. That's a customer service effort that we've implemented to try to make that go even smoother. Taking together these improvements will hopefully streamline the process, save time, and make it easier for you to do business in the city. It's amazing when we run some of our city business reports, how many small businesses we have in our community that are operated just by, 1, 2, 3, a small handful of people, sometimes out of their house, sometimes out of a small shop. And something I always talk with our team about is it's one thing when Target or Costco comes in, you can throw a binder at them and their teams used to working all over the country. They'll weed through it and they'll figure it out. But when somebody that just has decided to move to our community and start a small mom and pop operation or a small business with a few employees, this might be their first experience. We want their first experience with the city to be a good experience, one where they feel like their hand was held through the process and they were valued as an individual. Hey, you don't have to be a Costco or a Walmart to be important in our community. We value businesses of all shapes and sizes. So that's what we're trying to do with that. One of my favorite things in this job is infrastructure. Cities have to have infrastructure, new infrastructure, and maintain their existing infrastructure. That I-5 SR 529 project is so fulfilling. That aerial shot, and I know you saw it on the video too, kind of gives you a nice picture of it. But we started working on this in 2015 when we were in Olympia trying to get funding for it. And then we got it fully funded. And thank you to our state legislature for that. The state stepped up and funded a much needed infrastructure project. Our partners at the state, we really appreciate that. And then we had to go back. We went out, the state went out to bid for the project in, I think it was 2021, if I'm remembering right, and or maybe it's 22, got no bidders. We had a lot of inflation and a supply chain shortage at that time, if you remember, not a single bidder. And so we saw that the bidders coming in and saying, hey, here's what it would actually cost to fund that project. So I was on the phone the next morning, panicked with some of our legislators, Senator Robinson in the 38th and some of the others in the 39th, and just saying, hey, we've got to figure this out. And to their credit, they went back and backfilled that money so we could continue on and bid out successfully and build that interchange that you see now today. It's a really important piece of infrastructure for this city as we grow. 4th Street was becoming a failing proposition for all of us. And you throw a train through there and it was beyond failing. It was backing up onto the freeway. This provides you with an option that I take most often, and that's where I don't have to worry about the trains. I just get off there. And if you live up in the east side foothills or anywhere you're going east there, you can just take that 1st Street bypass. You don't even have to come to 4th or 3rd or any of that. You just come off the interchange, turn right onto the 1st Street bypass, and you're on your way. And then it opens up 4th for other people that really do need to use 4th maybe to get to where they're going. So an important infrastructure project. I want to say thank you to our state partners. We wouldn't have done it without them. Thanks to the city council. Thanks to the county council, who also helped fund some seed money at the beginning for some permitting. So we had a lot of great partners in that. This is where we thank you, the citizens. This is one of those things I was talking about where we had a need. We went to the citizens and we said, hey, we're not going to raise your taxes in this building. We're going to ask, do you want us to pave more roads? We have a lot of infrastructure. Marysville is an incredibly, when you go from the Sunnyside area all the way out past Costco, and then from I-5 all the way to Highway 9, there's a ton of lane miles geographically for this city that a lot of cities don't have to deal with, which means it's really expensive to maintain all our roads. And so we went out and said, do you want to take advantage of this, what's called the Transportation Benefit District? It's a 0.2% sales tax. And our sales tax is still on the lower half in the county, even with this, but you passed it. That was 10, 12 years ago. Then it has to come up every 10 years for renewal. You renewed it a couple years ago. We thank you for that. Generates about $3 million a year. That's where our pavement preservation comes from. When you see all these, well, a lot of them roads being paved throughout the community, it's with those dollars. We also get federal and state grants sometimes for those, but thank you for that. Here's some of the ones coming up in 2026. Safe routes to schools, another really important program. Our public works team, Jeff Laycock and his team, do a great job at getting these safe routes to school grants through WashDOT and the Department of Ecology. Again, the state partners are helping a lot here. In 2025, we did one at Cascade Elementary you might be familiar with, new sidewalk, pedestrian activated flashing traffic lights, curb and stormwater improvements. So we want safe walking spaces around our schools and also good lighting and different things like that. In 2026, you'll see similar improvements around Schultes, Liberty Elementary, which is the former Marysville Middle School. And also we'll be filling in some gaps around Cascade and Pinewood. Speaking of pedestrian safety, we're also grateful for a federal grant from WashDOT's Highway Safety Improvement Program. In 2026, this will allow us to install 24 pedestrian activated crosswalk signals. There's one you've probably seen those. There's one right up here. There's one by the library, I think. And so those are important around 12 locations in the city, building new curb ramps to upgrade to existing ADA standards and adding more marked crosswalks throughout the community. So that construction will take place mainly throughout the spring and the summer. Our 88th Street improvements. This is really an important project as well. 88th is one of those really congested areas. The intersection doesn't have a lot of great solutions, but we're trying to help the corridor. We held a very well-attended community meeting, I think over 100 people a few weeks ago on this. And it's a planned construction area that you'll see kind of visually there. Phase 1 will be State Avenue to 55th, and that'll go out to bid and be constructed in 2026. That'll add a center turn lane, shared bike and pedestrian paths, ADA ramps, and a water main and sewer main replacement project to go with it. Since we're tearing everything up, we'll replace those at the same time. This will be important. That center turn lane will allow some more free-flowing traffic, as well as more walkability that you don't have on 88th right now. And so we're really excited about that. A lot of funding partners here again, state and federal. And so we're very appreciative of those funding partners that allow us to move forward with this. Phase 2, we're expecting in 2027, if we get the rest of the funding that's expected, that'll go from 55th to 67th. Also in 2026, there's not a lot of options at that intersection at 88th. We're hoping to solve the 4th Street with the new interchange, but 88th, you've got a cemetery, you got railroad tracks right on top of State, just not a lot of great options. We are going to take a look at something called a continuous flow intersection concept. There'll be a lot of community input on that. It may be something that this community is just not interested in, but it's an option we feel we should present to you to see. Anyway, so you can look for that here as we move into the later part of the year. Lakewood area, we're very well aware of the congestion in Lakewood. Is some of that growth targets that we had to provide for included a lot of multifamily in that area of the community that they have built, and it means a lot of traffic. I get it, and the commercial out there, a lot of traffic. One thing that we're trying to do, I'll talk about an interchange that'll come in a few years out there, but there's some internal roads that you see pictured here that we're requiring development to help build out. And we're able to do that in some cases legally. The Josephine Caring community is building an assisted living facility out there just to the east of the Motto Apartments. They will build out the road segment shown in blue, a full connection from 169th to 23rd. That provides alternate access to and from Costco, the Costco Target shopping center area. They estimate that to be done this summer. Of course, that can always change. It's a private project. And then the road segment that you see in yellow is another developer that will build the English Crossing Boulevard from 164th to 169th. That's a requirement of this planned development. That segment will probably be next summer in 2027. These projects will offer some relief, providing local options that you don't have to use all of 172nd for. And so the segment gap in red there remains unfunded currently. And then when you move on to, I think what'll be the bigger solution, that connecting Washington package that we fought for in Olympia in 2015 to fund this interchange right out here that we discussed earlier. We were also able to get right at, I think the very last day, we were able to sneak in the 156th interchange into that project, a $42 million interchange, thanks to our state legislators. I remember working closely with Senator Hobbs on that, who's no longer in the legislature. He's our Secretary of State now, but deserves some credit for helping us to get that in there, as well as our other legislators. That 156th interchange was one of the last projects of connecting Washington. It's a 16-year package that runs from 2016 to 2031. So this one won't be finished until 2031. I wish it was sooner, but at least we're getting it. The design will start this year, and then it'll carry on, and hopefully 4 to 5 years from now, you'll have a new interchange there. That'll be really helpful because then you don't have everybody having to get on and off I-5 at 172nd. 156 will divert traffic, much like we see here with these two interchanges. So you'll see some work coming in years ahead on that. Wastewater treatment, everybody loves to talk about wastewater at a State of the City address. But it is important. Nobody notices wastewater and water in that until it doesn't work, and then you got real problems. Last year, we did install new screening equipment to increase the effectiveness of our plant and to reduce staff maintenance. It's important too, the upgrades in 2026 that are coming will offer us some more flexibility to save costs by effluent flow splitting. Lets us separate out what we send to Everett and not. We pay more for what we send to Everett. So that's just an important efficiency thing. Also this year, we're completing a master plan of the city's wastewater treatment program to assess what's needed in the future. And, we'll be perfectly honest with you. We are going to have to assess that master plan. We haven't dealt with some of the inflation rates that are a reality. And so that master plan will help inform us and as we have conversations with the community around what it's going to take to continue to maintain a wastewater treatment plant here in this community for that essential service. Now I'd like to touch as we get closer to the close, still got a little bit of ways to go on some of the quality of life things. We like to say best place to live, work, and play in Marysville. We talked a little bit about the work, the Cascade Industrial Center, a lot of quality of life stuff we're going to talk about here and play as well. And that involves one new thing that we're opening this spring, Mother Nature's Window. How many in here have heard of Mother Nature's Window or seen it? Yeah, a good portion of you. It's a somewhat hidden gem in our community. It's a 34-acre established forest, which in an urban area, you wouldn't expect that. When you're out in this area, you feel like you're in the mountains. It's a really neat area we've preserved, and the city acquired it from Snohomish County when that area was annexed. We worked last year to improve the trails, to build a parking lot, do a general cleanup, and get it open to the public. It's looking really good. It'll bring much needed additional passive park space to our community where you can just go enjoy nature. We're looking forward to that. The city's also going to add some sidewalks along here, along 55th for pedestrian safety. Stay tuned for the grand opening this spring. Since you all attended the State of the City, I'll let you in on a little secret. You can actually go in there now and enjoy it. We had a soft opening this weekend, but we'll do a grand opening this spring. It's probably a little wet back there now anyway. Strawberry Fields is another thing we're proud of. Our youth need good places to play and recreate. And one of the things we knew we could do is we have some existing fields that our community's invested in. One was Cedar Field that we turfed a few years back. And now we're working on Strawberry Fields. Unfortunately, due to the weather, a lot of our youth fields were only playable about 6 months out of the year. So turfing Cedar helps fix that. Turfing the one field at Strawberry, you now see kids out there, well, and adults too, but most time kids out there year round. And we have some amazing funding partners for phase one, which is turfing field 1. We have had those funding partners step up again for phase 2. Snohomish County Council delivered $100,000 towards that project. Pilchuck Soccer Alliance, a private soccer club that does youth soccer, is contributing $50,000 to that. And Amazon is contributing $50,000. So that helped us pay for that. The city council also budgeted a good chunk of money for the rest of that. But we're excited. Hopefully by June, we'll have that turfed and ready to go in our inventory. That'll leave just one grass field out there. What is coming this year, I'm sure many of you, or any of you who are soccer fans, probably a lot of you who even aren't, is that the FIFA World Cup games are coming. Probably the biggest sporting event in the entire world are coming to the Puget Sound. And so we will have games at Lumen Field down in Seattle, and we'll also have games in Vancouver, which means we're right in the middle. And so you'll see hopefully traffic coming through here as well. But one of the fun things we're hoping to do is, as we open up that new turf field, do some fun things, maybe like a FIFA-styled soccer tournament and have a grand opening with some fun things for some kids and stuff. So look forward to that. Keep an eye on our city Facebook page and website for information on that. Right out here in Comfort Park, one of the things when we designed this whole building and area, we wanted it to be a community space. I think you see that with Marysville for the holidays, with some of the events in the summer, with the splash pad, and some of the other things that we're able to do. We also, infrastructure-wise, added 5-foot sidewalks and completed replacing our 5-foot sidewalks with 8-foot sidewalks and made them ADA compliant so that everybody could use them. It also better accommodates the large crowds that are here often. And if you're here in the summer, spring or summer, you can see a lot of people here. Pedestrian lighting also added to it as well. And so I just want to thank the team for that. Parks as well. Just to go through a few of the other events, the annual Marysville for the holidays, Easter egg hunt, 4th of July fireworks show. We could go on and on, concerts in the park, movies in the park, all the programs at the Opera House. Our goal is to provide a lot of free and low-cost events for families and everyone in our community to attend. While we grow and we're a city of 75,000 plus now, second largest in the county, we don't want to lose our small town feel. You know, our 3rd Street businesses, our Opera House, some of these events that we talk about, the Poochapalooza event, all the ones. And a lot of these are volunteer driven as well. And so we want to retain that small town community feel that you can come out and enjoy your community, enjoy your neighbors on events like that. We thank the council for continuing to support those that help make them free or low cost for our community. We had record registrations for all the different programs we offered too in our community center, senior programs, youth programs, all kinds of different things that we produce there. There's a twice monthly free lunch for our seniors that's always really well attended. And registration for all of these things was over 25,000 of our folks here in the community enjoyed that stuff this year. That's amazing, up 9% over 2024. When you look at rentals too, the Opera House, Jennings Park, picnic shelters, our athletic fields, over 3,000 rentals. So there's a lot going on in the community, a lot to do, and we're really appreciative of that. Another success story, continued success story. It wasn't always this way. Cedar Crest Golf Course used to lose money every year. It would be subsidized by the general fund. The last 3 to 4 years, that's not the case. They're blowing the doors off. Nearly 55,000 rounds played out there, a 3% increase over 24. 2.4 million in annual revenue and 9% increase over 24. Council and I, we made a strategic decision a few years back that why don't we get the city out of the golf business and bring somebody in who specializes in golf, Premier Golf, runs golf courses all over the Puget Sound. And they've done just a tremendous job right-sizing that operation and making it whole, and actually brings in a profit now that they can invest back into the quality of the course. Cedar Crest was named the team of the year for all of Premier Golf's inventory here. So that's showing you just how great a job they're doing. We have a vision for the Parks Master Plan and a waterfront division, full waterfront vision, with that new I-5 interchange and all kinds of things going on. It's probably not lost on you that our waterfront with the EB Trail and some of the things gets a lot more traffic now. So we've done a lot of environmental cleanup down there. You can see the fill we've bought in probably from the Port of Everett. They gave us some free fill that we were able to bring in. We had to pay to haul it, but we got it from them for free. There'll be some more coming next year. That's being used to move the site out of the floodplain. We will eventually be relocating our public works shop to the city school district facility that we purchased, and then the district bought the old city hall, which we refurbished for them as well. And they'll be moving into that between summer. They have all of 2026 basically to negotiate that around their school schedule. And then in 27, we'll take over the district site and start beginning the process of moving our public works yard out of the floodplain, out of that facility over there. And then we'll assess what we can do. The parks master plan we intend to do will include the waterfront. We'd like to have some park area down there, some community area. We'd also like to have some private sector enterprise down there, whether it's restaurants or kayak rentals or whatever it might be. Of course, we have to find partners that are willing to operate that. One thing that we had looked at, we were the chosen site for the county for a proposed regional sports facility about 3 years ago. We studied that over and over. We got a state grant to help us look at really drilling down on a business plan, what that would take. And they presented over the last 3 or 4 months to us in the administration and to the city council that as they take a look at it, what's happening across the country these days is mostly when those facilities are built, it's built by government, the state, the county, or the city, or a combination of all three. Well, that wasn't really our idea. I mean, it wasn't that we would have no city investment, but we really can't afford to build the entire thing, which is probably the reality. I don't know that the county has a ton of money to build it either, or the state for that matter. We've got a lot of priorities. And so if it can't be a private sector or mostly a private sector effort, then it's probably not something we'll be able to move forward on. So the council's been real clear on that direction. I mean, I agree with that direction. And so that's kind of where that's at. Unless we're able to find a different avenue, that you probably won't see that down there. So anyway, I should just update you on that since that's been in the news from time to time. Here in Marysville, we are grateful as I do get ready to close here for our volunteers. And I want to recognize so many that volunteer in our community. I could start listing them, but then I would miss people. But just thank you. If you adopt a street, you help clean up litter, you're out there. Our MVP volunteer patrols, so many boards and commissions. Our service clubs do so much. Just a great community filled with incredible volunteers. We had a volunteer appreciation event a couple months ago where we try to formally recognize everybody. We also try to invest back into the community with federal community development block grant funds. And we get about $400,000 in that. And you'll see some of the things that are supported with that there on this slide. One other thing I wanted to highlight, a big example this year of partnerships. We have a Boys and Girls Club right down here by Cedar Field. And, we had a great partnership that was started by my predecessor, former Mayor Dennis Kendall, that was a real vision of his. And he went and got some state grants and got that started. And then we fronted the money and they paid the city back. We finally got to turn the keys over to them. And we're able to kind of formally recognize Mayor Kendall with that as well. And some the other folks who donated a lot of money to that, like the Bjork family and the Juby family. And so it was just a real fun time. And that is now fully paid for and owned by the Boys and Girls Club. So that's a great thing. Legislative priorities. We went over 156th Street interchange. If you go west on that, there's a closed rail crossing that you'll see. The interchange is fully funded by the state. We're now trying to raise money to build in conjunction with that interchange, a flyover at that 156 rail track. So if you go east, you're fine to get into the Cascade Industrial Center, but we want people to get west as well. Not just the city of Marysville, you got county and Tulalip and all kinds of folks that could benefit from that. And so it's about a $20 million project. We've gotten $5 million from the state already. Thank you again to our partners at the state. I was contacted by both Congressman Larson and Congresswoman Del Bene last week, Friday, and they let me know that the House passed a package that included $4.1 million allocated to that. Still got to get through the Senate and get signed by the president. The commitment, I think, is there to do that at some point, and so we're really, really pleased with that. And then the SR 992 intersection improvement is one we haven't really gone over. I'll just explain quickly. We established about 10, 12 years ago a break and access agreement with the state at SR 9 and 92 where you could turn west and go into Marysville, into those neighborhoods in that area. At that time, we paid money to help get that done. The state required a signalized intersection there that we were going to pay for. They've since changed to a desire to make that a roundabout, which costs more. And so what we're asking with this is that they just fill that gap, the gap we were going to pay for the signalized intersection to what's required now. And then Bayview Extension Phase 1. This is the south extension of Bayview. How many of you have been on Bayview? A few of you? Yes. Okay. It's a beautiful trail. If you haven't been up on the Bayview Trail, great views, a great place to walk, jog, take a bike ride. This will extend it south. Right now it goes from Getchell, from 84th to 528. This will extend it south and merge with what Lake Stevens is doing as they build north. The state has helped us fund this, the design and the property acquisition. We're looking for about another $2.5 million in state grants to help finish it. And then lastly, I just wanted to close with our approach to artificial intelligence. That's something that you're probably noticing in all areas of life, certainly in the private sector and even in your everyday life. Well, it affects and impacts cities too. I think there's a lot of positive things with AI. I think we can make our city more efficient. We can allow our current employees to do more with the hours that they work with AI, which is a good thing for all of you as citizens. We could streamline a lot of services, a lot of workflows, save some time, improve some customer service. So we're looking to do all that. And I know Administrator Stapleton and I have had meetings with some private sector entities that can help with that. We've talked with our council about it. And so we'll be moving forward just with ways to balance that with appropriate caution and attention. So guidelines that'll help our employees know what they can and can't do with AI, things like that. And so just want you to know we're aware of AI, we're aware of some of the benefits to it, and we're also going to put some guardrails in around it. So that's kind of where we're at with the AI thing. I just want to close before we start into the Q&A with just thanking everybody again. This is an amazing crowd. I mean, we're full up. We may have to move this to the Opera House or something next year, but I love this room. The beauty about this room is it's kind of a more intimate setting. And I want to thank all of you who joined online as well. I know not everybody can come out. I really love it having a lot of energy in the room and a full room, but it's just as important to provide this opportunity to people that can't get out here. And so thank you to those of you who joined online. You'll be allowed to certainly ask questions too. I think we'll volley back and forth just like we do at a coffee klatch and take a question in the room and then a question from the audience. So I'll close with thanking you, all our citizens. It is the honor of my life to serve as mayor of this community. I love it. I love every day of it. I mean, it doesn't mean that everything and every day is great, but I do wake up every morning just really recognizing the honor that it is to be able to serve as your mayor. We live in a great community filled with great volunteers, filled with great people that are passionate about our community. And even at times when we disagree, I know people all have the right interest at heart. Everybody wants to move Marysville forward. And I want to say about our city council too, that I got to introduce at the beginning. We're really blessed with the city council we have here. You know, if you read the newspaper at all or look around or watch some other council meetings, there's some interesting things that go on. There's a lot of division and a lot of difficulties between the administration and the council. We don't always agree on everything, but the respect and the desire to move the community forward exists with all 8 of the elected officials, as mayor and the 7 city council members. I really appreciate that about them. I appreciate that the egos are left at the door, that they come in looking to solve problems for the city. And where there's disagreements, they share it and we try to work things out. And if we move forward on things that we disagree on, we find other areas where we can find collaboration on. It's worked really well. We try to keep our nose to the grindstone, solve your problems, and stay out of unnecessary conflict. And that's kind of the values that the council holds. I do as well. And I so appreciate working with them. And finally, our city employees, all 359, I think we're at about now, city employees. You know, we couldn't I get to come up and share about all these exciting things, but they execute them on the ground all across the city. We have a great leadership team, my senior leadership team that I got to introduce at the beginning, right down through everybody at all levels of city work. You probably see a lot of them out there on the streets in the rain working, and I know they really appreciate whenever I get an email from a citizen about the great work they've done, I make sure those people get recognized. And if we hear about a problem, we take care of that too. But I know they appreciate a thank you if you're out there, whether it's a police officer, a public works, streets worker, or whoever it might be. So thanks to our city employees as well. And now on to the Q&A. Are we needing a mic or are we?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, we got mics here. So we'll start in the building and then we'll go to an online question. Anybody in here want to start us off? Oh, okay. We'll come back to you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Eldridge. I'm a resident of Marysville since 2010.
Okay.
And homeowner. And I've definitely seen our city grow.
Mhm.
I have loved living here. We enjoy all the improvements, especially give a shout out to the Parks and Recs department. We spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
The main entrance for myself and my family into Marysville is 88th Street.
Okay.
And I will say we did participate in the
Yeah.
question and answer session, and we're unfortunately not impressed.
Okay.
So I do want to ask you, kind of from your position and maybe the larger city council in a general sense, where you're coming from in regards to continuing to be a 2-lane road. Recognize that the center turn lane is going to be a help.
Right.
But coming into 88th at State is 4 lanes.
Right.
Getting out of 88th up Ingram was actually intended to be 4 lanes. It's kind of 2 now. And I've seen the full evolution over the last 15 years. And I spend a lot of time on that road and sometimes get stopped for 4 lights to get out of the city to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And I just don't see the vision.
Sure.
And I will say we've got lots of community forums for which the comments are all very negative about having plenty of room for 4 lanes. I am a proponent of sidewalks, but the plan looks a little overboard. So I really would like to hear from you personally on where that plan is coming from and when you're really going to take community feedback.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to ask Director Laycock maybe to speak to the 4-lane piece, but first of all our new developments do have curb gutter sidewalk. So we feel as a city, we should comply with that as well. Walkability is important on there. With the area that we have to buy up the property that we use 4 lanes. And I think you're going to need a center turn lane, whether we ever expand out to 5 lanes or not. So just have it, like on State Avenue, you have a center turn lane, et cetera. So this is a phase of a project. I don't know that we'll ever get 88th fixed. I mean, I shared with you some of the complications with that right now. This is designed to be an improvement. I agree with you. It's a modest improvement. A center turn lane will help modestly. It's not going to transform the area, but it will be a modest improvement. It's something we could get funded with state grants. This is pretty much all being paid for with grant dollars, not city dollars. Which again feeds into some of the requirements that we're doing as well. And Director Laycock, if you could speak to what it would take to get that to 5 lanes, I guess at least 4 lanes. I think we would view it as 5 lanes necessary if you were to add a travel lane on each side, what it would take to get to that and how that interacts with the process we're taking.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And great question. And appreciate your turnout at the public meeting several weeks ago. Really 4 lanes, and I guess really with that entire corridor. Again, I kind of explained at the meeting, it is a predominantly residential corridor. Impacts with building out infrastructure with that type of lanes configuration would certainly require more impacts right away, likely having to buy more houses. 2 lanes of traffic each way without a center turn lane. We do have a high number of collisions that occurred due to left turn movements, rear end collisions, T-bones. If you're not allowing and providing a space for that dedicated left turn, you're going to see more of those, especially with the 4-lane road section. Again, with the number of schools and again being more residential corridor, like all of our facilities within the city, we have to plan for pedestrian access and accessibility. This is also planned bike route, has been for a number of years as part of the city's comprehensive plan. We combine those 2 facilities into the shared use path. Those bicycle pedestrian connections will connect to other facilities, transit facilities. So we need to look at not only moving vehicular traffic, but also investments that protect our groups that can't rely on traffic. school-age children in this corridor. Yeah, I think that's, for me, really covers the statements.
I mean, I suppose we could have internal conversations around what it would look like if you had no sidewalk. I can tell you the areas where we have no sidewalks, we have just the opposite. People coming in saying, this is ridiculous that you can't put sidewalks in for me. We have a ton of people that walk their dogs and strollers and stuff everywhere. And this, since it's a pedestrian, or it's a residential corridor, if it's not like 4th where, I mean, we have sidewalks on 4th too, but where you have all businesses, 88th is lined with houses. So you would be putting a road right up against a front yard without a buffer of a sidewalk and those kind of things. And I think that creates a whole different set of problems. And like I said, I understand what you're saying. In some ways you say, hey, let's just maximize the traffic. Let's just build all traffic lanes there. But I can tell you the areas where we do that, we hear the exact opposite. We get citizens in and they're like, why have you not? And we just dealt with this in another neighborhood. We had one community meeting. We're going to have another one where they're begging for sidewalks. They're like, we're watching moms roll strollers through gravel with cars whizzing by. So it's a balancing act. And I think we've taken one bite at the apple here to say we can get the curb gutter and sidewalk in and the center turn lane. We'll see what we can do in the future. We require all private sector developers, when they put a development in, to put in curb gutter and sidewalk. So when a city goes and puts something in, it's a little bit hypocritical to say, well, we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it a gravel roadway, but we're going to make you all put that in. And people love the fact that developers have to put curb gutter and sidewalk in front of their development because it means you got options there. So it's probably not what you were hoping to hear. It's probably not a perfect answer. It doesn't mean we can't look at and ask the question, I suppose, what would that look like if we just said, no, let's change. I don't even know if the state grant we'd be eligible for the state grant if we didn't have curb gutter sidewalk. Jeff's shaking his head.
So
that's another thing. We don't get the money without complying with some of these things that are best practices.
I fully agree with curb sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I would say I understand the bike lane. I truly do, because you've just put other ones in. However, I guess my comment more is that the size of that area is in excess of another lane on both sides. So it's the design does not seem optimized to truly facilitate traffic and a reasonable amount of space for pedestrians. And I will say I absolutely take advantage of our sidewalks. I have an area by my house that is not safe, and I continually have problems with that because there are no sidewalks. But this area and the design seems to be swayed a bit too much towards that side versus the traffic. I would like to see a better balance.
Sure. But if you go up I'll just offer a contradiction. If you go up into the new neighborhoods up in the East Side foothills, they have those giant side, and just like the ones we put out here, those are what developers are building, and people love them up there because you can do all kinds of things. And if you happen to be in a wheelchair, or something, so there are options. I don't know what the state requires, if the size is determined, or if we're able to chop that down with the state, with the grant dollars that we get. Jeff, apologize. I'll have to refer to him for that.
I mean, yeah, the size of those facilities, the widths are, especially for the shared use path, is a requirement for that width.
Is there ADA compliance in that too?
Yeah, there ADA and basically the width accommodate both a bicyclist and a pedestrian, and there's no conflict point there.
Yeah.
I think another question that's been addressed here is creating that buffer space between the traveling public and what we call landscape strip. So that's also included as part of this project. That again makes the road safer. You drive the corridor slower. We've already received requests to lower the speed limit along this corridor as part of the project as well. So, I think where we'll see benefit too is where you're getting, traffic concerns is again at, whether it's the interchange at I-5 or State Avenue in that intersection. We are looking at those improvements to improve that flow. Ultimately, additional lane capacity isn't always going to build you out of congestion. So, those are the things that we look at, and we've studied. We studied this corridor actually back in the last comprehensive plan when we evaluated actually what is the benefit and cost associated with doing a 5-lane corridor. And at that time, we made a decision based off other improvements that are occurring around the city that we're able to maintain the adequate level of service along this corridor. And that means keep traffic flowing with that improvement and with other improvements that are in line. I think and during that meeting, we also mentioned that we constructed the segment of 51st, which was a gap in the segment. So that provided that south connection. So I think that there's alternatives off of 88th Street too. Things with future interchanges like our current new interchange at 529 that provides that better ingress egress through the city and two major corridors like I-5.
Thank you. This is a good question, and there'll be continued opportunities to weigh in on that. Do we have an online question? Oh, okay.
In person, online, in person.
We try to do online in person. Yeah, go ahead. Do one online, and we'll come to you next.
The first online question came in right at the beginning, but I don't think you addressed it. So
Okay.
this person is asking about what's happening at 100th and 67th.
Oh, what development? I'm assuming they mean, that's a gas station, right? Chevron, I think it's a Chevron gas station, if I remember right.
That is correct,
Yeah.
Mayor. Crossroads Chevron, which was on your list of new businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Crossroads Chevron. Good question. Thank you. And the next question. Yeah.
I wrote it down. Good
Okay.
evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Danielle. I am a homeowner and resident of Marysville.
Mhm.
I'm here tonight because public safety in the city is already failing, and recent events have made that impossible to ignore. Just yesterday, students from Pilchuck High School exercised their constitutional right to protest. They were minors. While protesting on State Street, they were allegedly assaulted. Adults reportedly screamed profanities at them as they drove by, threw food and drinks, and most alarmingly, someone allegedly brandished a firearm at the children. While we're told the Marysville Police Department was present to ensure their safety. So here's my first question. Mayor Nehring, if the Marysville Police Department could not prevent or stop the alleged assault of children during a peaceful daytime protest on State Street, why should anyone in the city, especially families and homeowners, believe that they will protect us during a high-tension federal enforcement operation? Because that is no longer a hypothetical. Across the country, federal administration enforcement actions have escalated tensions, provoked violence, and resulted in innocent people being harmed. In response, both the governor and the attorney general for this state have stated that the Washington state will not tolerate unconstitutional conduct, civil rights violations, or actions that put residents at risk. They have emphasized the importance of coordination between state and local governments. My second question to you is this. Do you intend to fully cooperate with Governor Ferguson and Attorney General Brown's guidance to ensure that Marysville is prepared, coordinated, and acting within the bounds of the Constitution if the federal enforcement activity occurs here? Because this is not about politics or ideology. This is about crowd control, de-escalation, commanding authority, and the protection of civilians, including children, family, immigrants, and bystanders. And finally, I want with clarity, not deflection, if chaos ensues in Marysville, who is responsible? Is it you, the mayor? Is it the chief of police? Is it the city council? Residents deserve to know who will be held accountable if violence occurs. If civil rights are violated, or if the state fails to protect its people, leadership means preparation. Public safety means action, not reassurances after the fact. And accountability means answering hard questions before something does go wrong. So I'll end where I began. If our children were not kept safe on State Street, convince us why we should trust you to keep the rest of us safe later. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for the question. And I'll answer first, and I'll let the chief address maybe some of yesterday, because that's the first I've heard of it. What you termed it, 2 alleged incidents. You said they were alleged. That somebody brandished a firearm. I'm pretty confident, and I'll spend a little bit of time, chief, and then I'm pretty confident if our officers witnessed somebody brandishing a firearm anywhere in the city, they would have dealt with that. You said it was alleged, so we don't know if that happened.
Yeah, I don't have any videos.
Oh, okay.
or Pictures of it.
Who told you that it happened? Or how?
From the school, that student was there.
Okay. Saw the gun. Well, I'll let the chief talk about that, but I'm quite confident if somebody brandishes a firearm and our officers witness it, they're going to deal with that. So you can rest assured of that. I don't even need to ask the chief, but I'm sure he'll reiterate that. Regarding some of the other stuff, and there was a lot there, so if I leave some things out, you're welcome to follow up. You know, obviously, we greatly value the immigrant community in Marysville. A lot of them are personal friends of mine, personal friends of our family. We value everybody. We value the immigrant community, that many of them own businesses in the community. Many of them are just good, hardworking members of our community. They're all valued. They're all welcome here. And we seek to protect theirs and everybody's constitutional rights. Period. End of story. Nobody's constitutional rights should be violated, whether it's Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, which there are Fifth Amendment rights that exist even for those that may not have all their documentation, right? They still have Fifth Amendment constitutional rights. We want all of those to be protected in the city of Marysville. I would tell you that who's responsible? Well, if there's a federal agency that is conducting an operation, they're responsible for their actions. I mean, I don't know if you're asking that the city police department go in and physically oppose that. I don't see that happening in any other city in Washington, but I'm not quite sure what you're getting at there. But ultimately, if there is a unrest of some sort, the individuals participating in the unrest are responsible for it. Now, what will we do to respond? If our police are called in, they will seek to de-escalate. Period. End of story. We're not interested in inflaming things. We're interested in de-escalating them and finding a peaceful solution for everybody that's involved and that respects everybody's constitutional rights. I would say that there's a really good statement that I think encompasses much of my view on this by the International Association of Police Chiefs. I think it's really thoughtful, and I'm going to share some of it that I think aligns with what I feel and that would hopefully answer your question. Periods of heightened tension and division like we are experiencing across our country right now place a really significant strain on public safety systems. This enhances the great need across the nation for stability, for professionalism, and respect for constitutional principles. At times like this, officials at all levels and of all political persuasions play a critical role in de-escalating tensions by pursuing measured, responsible rhetoric that reinforces respect for the law and respect for the public's trust in us carrying out the law, rather than seeking to deepen divisions that already exist in our country. Where federal actions intersect with local concerns here in Marysville or anywhere else, it is my belief, and I think the belief that I would share, that we will advocate, and we are currently advocating for clear communication and cooperation with any federal agencies that would come here. Respect for local law and constitutional protections, independent review of any incidents that involve force, independent being the key there, strong oversight and accountability mechanisms. And at the same time, we would also underscore that officer safety is inseparable from community safety and must remain a fundamental priority in all public safety situations. We've had two, I would say, incidents where federal agencies have come in recently and have apprehended people that were connected with drug cartels, recovered guns, weapons, drugs, and other paraphernalia. And in doing that, I think there are also some deportation processes underway. The people that live in our community and are abiding by the law are welcomed and protected, and we care and hope that they all remain and prosper here in our community. But I don't care who you are, whether you've lived here all your entire life, where you come from, what your background is. If you commit a crime in this community, you're going to be held accountable. So that's one thing that I should state. But to the tone of your question, protecting constitutional rights is paramount. Where we can do that, where I can do that, where our police chief can do that, we will seek to de-escalate, to protect those constitutional rights, and to encourage others to do so. I will say, when you say, well, whose ultimate responsibility, you want to know exactly whose responsibility is it if something breaks out. Well, I don't know who you're holding responsible when it breaks out in Minneapolis. Is that the mayor, the governor, or is it the federal agency? I would ask some of the same questions. I mean, an agency that comes in, a federal agency that comes in, there's no local jurisdiction over that agency. In other words, the chief of police doesn't have the authority to call that operation off. In some instances, we might not even know it exists. Usually in most of our interactions with federal agencies, they have communicated in situations where they have maybe taken out a drug house or something. We had Homeland Security come in right in my neighborhood 2 or 3 years ago and deal with a drug house that our neighborhood had been desperate to have dealt with. Council and I get calls every day for that. So those are operations that sometimes there's a connection on. It's possible in the future there will be some that there is no connection on, where we won't even know who's in town. We will seek to de-escalate that. We will seek to have people's constitutional rights protected, and we will seek to find a peaceable solution with, if it's a federal agency or an outside agency, and the individuals involved. In some instances, I'll tell you, even in Washington State, in some instances that gets taken care of on the back end. If, let's say, somebody's Fourth or Fifth Amendment rights have been infringed upon in one of these states or in Washington State. There's a couple examples that I've read of recently in Washington State. I think there was one in Monroe and another one somewhere else where individuals were taken to the Tacoma Detention Center. And everything was looked through, processed, and a judge at their bond hearings said, no, this was an unlawful detention, and they were gone. They were free to release. So sometimes sometimes it's dealt with on the back end. That's why we have courts and judges in this country to help provide checks and balances against some of these things where constitutional rights may be infringed upon. So who's the ultimate authority there? Well, it was the judge. It wasn't the mayor of Tacoma or the mayor of Monroe or the chief of police of Tacoma, the chief of police in Monroe. So it's not always as clear cut as you might like to think it is, where a mayor is somehow able to control every single aspect of this, or a chief of police or anybody else. We have a system of checks and balances in this country where sometimes we have to depend on final adjudication at the judicial level if we're not able to come in and reach a peaceable solution like we might desire. So I'm happy to elaborate on that. It was a very long question, so I might have missed some of it. I'm going to let, first of all, and I'll give you a chance to follow up because I might not have fully answered your question, but I'd like the chief to weigh in on that. That's the first I've heard of anything yesterday. The only thing I heard about was a kid threw a chicken nugget at somebody's car window. So apparently some other things were going on.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. No, I'm green. Thanks, Mayor. Eric Scarpin, Chief of Police, City of Marysville. I just want to first acknowledge our minds are all reeling with the things that we're seeing happen nationally. And certainly none of us want to see anything like that happen in Washington State or within our community. I think it starts with just what the mayor was saying. It's thoughtful communication and controlling what we can control. For us, that's working very strongly with our local partners. We work very closely with the sovereign nation of the Tulalip tribes. In fact, just the other day, we were at, myself and Assistant Chief Lawless appeared before the tribal board, and we're speaking just about this very issue. This has been on our minds the past few days. We've been talking with our employees about it. We've been talking with our police leadership team about it. And what I can assure this community is that your police department is going to do everything it can to operate within state law, under the laws of our state, and we already comply with that. We have no desire to get involved with any kind of immigration enforcement. It is not within the mission of local law enforcement, and it's actually counter to us providing quality police services to this community. One of the things that we're doing too is we're working amongst all Snohomish County police chiefs and the sheriff to make sure that we have a consistent approach to this so that we are able to, if we are called to the scene of something where it's starting to get out of hand, our officers are trained and they're always going to work to de-escalate the situation. That's the very best thing that we can do to try to keep tensions calm, to try and reduce some of the rhetoric that we're seeing out there. And at least some of the things that I'm starting to see happen at the federal level within the past few days are encouraging me that perhaps we're headed in a better direction. I know that's going to take a lot of time, and this is something that simply can't be solved by our state alone, can't be solved by Minnesota alone. These are solutions that have to occur at the federal level in order for us to get a better resolution as a nation moving forward on this. Just briefly, Mayor, if I could speak to the events yesterday. Yeah. We had somewhere between 150 to 200 students that walked out of the high school exercising their First Amendment right. And we're going to do everything as a police department, as we did that other day, to protect their First Amendment right to protest. So they made it safely to a location on State Street, right by the grocery store there near Fed Meyer. And actually, the walk there went just perfect, no issues. But then I'll say, if you get 200 teenagers together in one spot with kind of nothing to do, there will be some things that happen, right? So we started to get disturbance calls from the store, some complaints about kids milling about, causing some issues. Mayor, we did have that issue that you mentioned where one of the kids threw a chicken nugget at a passing car. That driver's, slamming on their brakes, reacting, just like put in your mind like somebody would stop if they got hit with a snowball and like, darn you kids. That was the kind of confrontation that took place. The police were on scene within minutes of that. They were able to de-escalate that issue. There was no arrest made. There was a brief detention while the officers tried to figure out what had happened and determined that there was no crime. It was about that same time that we had received a verbal report of that somebody had threatened to shoot somebody. And to my knowledge, that was never confirmed. So, but I could see how if somebody heard that information or said that information or repeated it, it could be reported as it was brandished. That was never received as a report to the police that a firearm was actually brandished. We would respond quickly to that. And we already had officers on scene when that report was coming in. At the time that report came in, that person was walking to the station to report that. I never saw anything additional and no reports made it to my desk that something like that actually happened. We're going to do everything we can to keep everybody safe within our community. There are going to be things, though, that just as our students are out there expressing their First Amendment rights, people may be driving by disagreeing with what they're protesting for and expressing their First Amendment rights too. So it's on us to try and help keep everybody safe within that situation and make sure that nothing escalates.
And then with regards to state law, I should speak to that, because as mayor, it's always been my direction, and Chief and I talk every day pretty much, but we've sat down several times and discussed this, that the direction from the mayor's office, and I know the chief would do this anyway, is we will comply with state law. And state law under the Keep Washington Working Act, or if there's new state laws that are passed, and I know the legislature is looking at some new things, City of Marysville does not stand in opposition to state law. We realize that state law supersedes anything we do at the city, any city ordinances, and we comply with all state laws. So in this area, we have complied with the law, and we plan to continue to do so. I know that was one of your questions, will you comply with state law? And the answer is easily yes. And it has been that way. Thanks, Chief. Can we go online first, then we'll get to you guys? If we have an online question? Okay.
We have a question from Preston. What are we doing to address the rising homeless population coming into our city from other cities? It seems to be getting worse downtown.
So part of this, thank you, Preston. Part of this was addressed in the State of the City with our CARES team. I think that CARES team also, I mentioned, I think a stat of 50 some that they've been able to house. So that's part of the strategy. We try to connect people that are without a house with all sorts of services that they might be able to get. We have a cold weather shelter to temporarily get them off the streets in cold weather situations, and we try to connect them with other housing. We have supported robustly things like Housing Hope, that's built 2 complexes out in North Marysville. They received city support that allowed them to build those more cheaply with some of the permitting and designs that we allowed out there. So we support that. We've got other housing down close to Cedar here where we've done similar things. We work with Snohomish County Housing Authority and others to try and find ways to get some low-cost housing in Marysville. And I think you see more in Marysville than you do in a lot of communities. But we realize that there's a long way to go and statewide. And I think that's a lot of what the state is grappling with. I don't know, when you look at point in time counts and different things, that there's an increase. I think there's, an existing issue that we continue to deal with, and we find solutions for some folks. And there's certainly some out there that still continue to struggle with homelessness, but we don't necessarily see it increasing year over year, but we see it as a continued serious and grave problem. Preston, thanks.
I have a bit of a long-winded one, so I'm going to let her go first.
So you talked about AI, and you mentioned very vaguely safeguards. Considering that the damage AI can do to employment, because automation innately will damage employment, even as it's not innately bad. But also AI's very strong tendency to hallucinate, as it's often called.
Mhm.
How can we really rely on that? You spoke a lot about its positives, but didn't really go into its negatives much,
Sure.
which there are definitely many of.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was speaking now, be careful here. I was thinking about it from a city employee standpoint. I can't govern what you personally do in AI. No, that's your constitutional freedoms are there. But as a city, we can govern how our employees use it. And that's what I was talking about. There, for instance, and I don't know that we'll use this at our city, but we get a lot of public records requests. There are cities that employ a full-time person to deal with public records requests. Well, the AI could, in some instances, help you waft through that and just deliver those public records to somebody like yourself who wanted them without a city employee being paid to do that. That city employee could be then left to do something else. When I talked about this with our employees, our intention is not, we have zero intention of eliminating any jobs through AI. Our problem is we have a lot more work than our current staff can do, and we don't have the tax dollars to hire a bunch of more people. So the goal is to say, how do we deliver the services to all of you with our existing force? And I don't think you're going to see a dramatic, early on, a dramatic increase in how that works. But the safeguards that we're talking about are to ensure that it's used properly. And there's a way to set up a governing structure so that we can see what programs people are using for AI and make sure it's being used constructively. I'm not an expert in AI, but I can think of a whole host of things we wouldn't want it used for. And those are the type of things we'll try to govern. But things like public records requests or permitting applications or things like that, where we can help get things to you more quickly and efficiently, or options.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Online?
Thomas asks, is the area between 116th and 104th on State Avenue ever going to get sidewalks?
Along State Avenue? Yeah, how that works typically is when industry, it's built by the private sector. So when they look to do improvements along that area, if we have businesses and whatnot that look to rebuild or make improvements, it'll trigger frontage, what we call frontage improvements. Am I correct on that, Jeff? So it's dependent on some of that type of thing happening. So when you see, just like you see with homeowner, when some of these tracks with old homes sell off and somebody comes in and puts a new housing development, curb gutters and sidewalks come with that. Same in the business sector. If somebody were to go rebuild an area of town, they would have to put in frontage improvements. You can add something if you want.
Thanks, Mayor. And I heard the question is sidewalks along 104, State Avenue from 104th to 116th. We did install sidewalks as a widening project on the east side of the roadway. On the west side of the roadway, we're restricted because we're right up against the railroad property right there.
Yeah,
We're
that's
not
true.
going to be able to get property. So that's why we installed safe crossing there near 104th
Yeah.
with the signalized pedestrian crossing.
Thank you. Good. Very good. Yeah. Do you want to take the mic there just so the audience online can hear? Oh, okay. We'll get to you next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mayor
Yeah.
Nehring. I just want to speak a little bit about what may happen if ICE or Border Control does come into our city.
Mhm.
Chief Scarpo, I want to congratulate you that I was able to find that you have a section on immigration violations, and you've been thinking about some of these issues. And I'd like to know kind of where all those things go. I'm involved in the schools in Marysville. As a retired teacher, I help regularly. And I want to know that we won't have ICE. I hope there's some kind of a program or policy agreement that we won't have those people coming onto the campuses and into the buildings. Schools, children need to be safe. They need to be separate. They do not need to be a part of that scene. And so this doesn't speak to that. I don't, maybe it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I really have big concerns there.
Yeah, I think where we can, so we comply with the Keep Washington Working Act. We comply with all state immigration, immigration law, which governs and conducts a lot of this. Where I think the state is struggling, and where even municipalities is, we don't govern a federal agency. So in other words, when you say, is there an agreement for that? I mean, does the city of Seattle have an agreement? I don't know if there's any city that has an agreement like that where the federal government has said, hey, yeah, we'll go ahead and sign with you that we're not going to go here, here, and here. So, I mean, what you're asking is for something that I don't know is even possible to obtain. And if you can show me an example of other cities that are signing those, I'm not aware of them. But what we'll do is we'll comply with Washington state law. So you won't see the chief of police and his officers on a school campus checking to see who's documented or not. And you won't see them assisting with that. Now, if there were a crime committed, like I said, when there is criminal activity, regardless of immigration status, we're going to deal with that. Absolutely. But people that are not committing a crime will never be asked by our police department to show papers or something of that nature. I can't promise you that there will never be a federal agency that comes here and does that. And I mean, you've got the detention facility in Tacoma. I mean, so you're asking me if we can get an agreement for them not to go into schools. Well, has the mayor of Tacoma been able to keep the ICE detention facility out? So I'm not, it's got to be a realistic option before you can answer a question of whether you can do that or not. And so I hope I'm answering your question, but I don't know where it's possible to get a signed agreement to that effect. Yeah.
But just if we had.
It's not something we desire. I mean, does that help you?
Sure.
Yeah.
The schools perhaps have a policy that, well, of course, you are allowed in one at a time.
Let me put it,
doesn't just walk
maybe
through
this
the
will help
door,
you.
But I don't know.
Maybe this will help you help you feel more comfortable. We don't want anybody going on to campuses in Marysville asking kids what their family's documentation are. So I suppose if we heard that was happening, we would attempt to connect with the people in charge. I would attempt to do that. I think our chief of police would, and find out, hey, is there a way we can not do this and de-escalate that and remove that situation? So while I can't tell you we have a signed agreement, I don't know that we'll ever be able to get a signed agreement. I think we would involve ourselves if we were to find out that was happening. If the superintendent were to call me or something, we would try to get a resolution to that quickly. But again, we don't govern that agency, so I don't, but we would try to find a way to resolve that quickly. And there's got to be better things for everybody to do than that.
So the city of Redmond shut off their traffic cameras because they were being used to round people up. So what would your stance be on something like that? Because you read a cooperation statement, so I'm just wondering, like, that sort of lies. I'm not sure where state law.
Yeah,
applies.
there's going to be state law that'll govern that. We're actually in contact. The chief is with our legislators working to try to find guardrails on that. What we have done is they're not able to access our cameras. Outside agencies are not able to access. I think you've shut that off, haven't you?
Yeah,
Outside agency of any kind are not able to access those cameras. They were put here to solve local crimes. And so there's not an ability for anybody to come in and access that. That's a privacy and a public, what we do run into problems is sometimes people can ask for a public record and post it on the internet, but.
Yeah, just for clarification, Mayor. So our traffic cameras within the city, those are not monitored by the police department. That's a traffic engineering thing. We're talking about public safety cameras like flock cameras. We do have those in Marysville. We do not share nationally right now. And we are, as the mayor said, working with lawmakers to address some safety guardrails, both for records retention and sharing, so that we don't run into any concerns with federal agencies trying to access that information. So nationally right now, nobody can look that stuff up. It's all just contained locally, just Washington state, and it's all governed by Washington state law. There was never an intention by any, I think I can say this for every chief and sheriff within the state here, there was never any intention to try and violate state law with that. That was done beyond our knowledge.
What we are hoping to protect in that is the ability to do what we're doing now and catch a lot of criminals that are stealing cars and a lot of other things. So we got to be careful here, that we don't shut off things. Because most of the emails that I get are around crime and drugs and all of this. So we got to be careful that as we started solving those problems, we have common sense guardrails, but we don't create a situation where you're all in here in a year or two from now saying, why are crime rates up? Because all these tools have been taken away. Thank you for the question. I'm going to go online, and then we need to get back here to this lady because she had her hand up. Well, let's go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll take one more and then we'll go online. Go ahead.
What do you know as far as the sound transit?
Yeah.
Coming in when, where?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Sound transit. There is no plan to bring sound transit to Marysville. We're not part of the sound transit taxing district right now. They've got their hands full just getting it up to Everett, to be honest with you, by 2041, I think. So none of us will probably be here when it gets to Marysville. But in all seriousness, yeah, that's what it would take. They will not look at expanding until they, get all those other ones taken care of. And it's a really good question. What we do have in the meantime, we're looking to help with things like bus rapid transit. The Gold Line for community transit will be coming through here, it's bus rapid transit is just a hop on, hop off. So it's a much quicker option than your traditional bus. So if you're commuting down to Seattle, it's a really good option. That'll be coming through here in the next 2 to 3 years, but it'll be a long time till sound transit makes its way up to Everett even. I got to go online and I'll get to you, Mark.
We have a question from Chad. Is there a fix for afternoon traffic on State between 1st and 4th?
Yeah.
The traffic can back up due
Yeah.
to the new roundabout, and it's hard to get out of the Safeway parking lot or anywhere
Yeah.
to head north.
Yeah, really good question, Chad. Jeff will want to weigh on this, but I'll just say we recognize that the new interchange, while it's done a lot of great things, it's created a little bit of traffic congestion, or a lot during rush hour down in that area. We're doing traffic studies, we're monitoring that, and I don't know if you have anything new since the last time we talked, Jeff, but are there some solutions that you can talk about that we're ready to implement, or do you need more data first?
Yeah. We need more data to collect. So traffic counts that help us understand the situation that's going on. We understand it's still probably a balancing act out there. We have made some changes, certainly to signal timing as we can out there, but we have real powerful software tools that with the correct data will allow us to configure these signals correctly. Hopefully provide some gaps to get out of the Safeway at 3rd. If you're not stuck there, I recommend using the north entrance exit to get out of there. So I think there are alternatives.
Hopefully that helps. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Connie Jackson. I'm a renter up in the Lakewood neighborhood.
Mhm.
I also work for a local paper known as the Voice of the Mountain.
Okay.
We published an article a few weeks back about the housing situation in Marysville. And a lot of our readers asked, why aren't we building up? So we dug into it a bit. We found specifically City Code Section 22C 010 090 forbids buildings above around 60 feet, 35 feet in some cases, and that tends to be what's leaned to for a lot of, especially multi-family residences. In a discussion we had with Councilman Gondelius a while back, he talked about how Marysville is really lucky in the fact that we have a lot of undeveloped land, and that cities such as Everett or Linwood don't have this luxury. However, in spite of this, and in spite of some developments by the city, for example, I live in one of the new developments off 172nd, so I don't doubt that the city has done some improvements to help the renting situation. That in spite of this, rent in Marysville is more comparable to a city like Linwood instead of Stanwarders and Homish. And we asked that, why would that be? Why wouldn't we just build up? Because our transit strain would go up, our utility prices would go up, and the strain on our school system would go up. The only thing not going up would be Marysville in that case. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll say that's something we could certainly look at. I think we've raised that limit recently. So I'm not saying it doesn't have to go higher, but we did raise that recently. So there used to be a lower limit. For every individual like yourself that wants that, I can tell you there's at least one that'll come in here and say, all these apartments are creating more traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to have a balance there. But I mean, it's something we can look at. I think it's a fair point, a fair question. And your readers are asking that. I think it's something worth looking at. But we haven't had a lot of discussions around that recently since we raised it the last time.
Sorry, I forgot to mention one point.
Sure.
At the Planning Commission meeting last night,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to mention this to hammer at home, it's not that important. The impact fees that developers have to pay to develop undeveloped land in Marysville has a possibility of going up as high as $14,000 in that ballpark. And that would hinder growth in the area, which is something that it needs to be considered
Yeah.
for the future,
So,
especially for a city that could be a first-tier city by 2050.
so I will address that. We have, I think, gone 15 years or so without looking at developer fees. I don't know if any of your costs have stayed the same for 15 years, but we feel that it shouldn't just be citizens that bear the cost of development. Any developer fees that are looked at will be looked at fairly, and there has to be, even legally, there has to be a nexus to the cost. But the term, when you have development, there is certain requirements and things of paying for frontage improvements and all that, and hookup fees to help fund us what's going to end up being probably some improvements to your wastewater treatment plant. Unless you want that borne by just the existing citizens, you have to look at developer fees. And that's what we're doing. And the reason they may go up a lot is because they haven't been raised. And what we probably should have done, and what we'll endeavor to do in the future, is just have a more regular, small increase that we don't have to make a big jump like we have because they haven't been looked at for so long. And I don't know what, you cited a number. We don't know what the number will be. The study will inform that. Yep. Yeah, and we don't know what it'll finally be. There'll be a study, but then there'll be a conversation with the Planning Commission and the council and the administration, and we'll try to be fair to everybody concerned, the citizens that live here and the new developers that are trying to provide good housing as well. Everybody needs to be treated fairly. Good questions, both of them. Yes, Connie?
Not really a question. Just several people online were thanking you for making this available online.
Oh, great. Well, it's a pleasure. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. All right. Oh, sorry, we forgot Martha. Oh, yeah, we'll get to you here too.
I'm Martha Satina, and I live in Marysville. In response to your question about keeping the schools safe, I think the people of Minneapolis have shown us that it is the people that have to come together. They have to be loud. They have to have whistles, and they're the ones that are going to take care of this if ICE comes in. We cannot expect that the city is going to do it all.
Thanks. Do we have another online? I know we have this gentleman.
Can I?
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Suzanne Grove. I've lived in Marysville my whole life. I live here with my husband and my daughter. I am a peaceful protester, and many of the people here protest with me. I want to know that my city, the city that I'm very proud of, and thank you for, I see all of the beautification and the roads, and thank you so much. And thank you for your comments, Sheriff, also. I just want to know that my city is going to have my back and protect my group who are out there peacefully protesting, exercising our First Amendment rights.
Yeah, the answer is the answer is clearly yes. I mean, I think you're experiencing that now. I think if you're the group I'm thinking of down by Fourth there, you're there almost every week, and so I don't think you've experienced. I hope you haven't experienced anybody inhibiting that First Amendment right. If you do, let us know. Then you need to call 911. I mean, if everybody's First Amendment rights are protected, regardless of your political persuasion or what issue you're protesting on. And so, yeah, I mean, we take seriously all constitutional rights in the city of Marysville, and we're interested in protecting all of them. Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, First Amendment that you're partaking in. And so the answer is a clear yes. I have not been made aware of any inhibition of those rights, but if there is one, I would suggest first talk to the police department because that's your immediate need. And then if you want to share them with me as well, I'd be happy to discuss them with you too. Sure. Thanks. Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Police Chief. I had a question, and it seemed to be brought up by other citizens. And I just want to say my name is Anthony. I'm a resident of Smoky Point.
Okay.
I want to start off by saying thank you for the presentation and for everyone involved. It is really amazing, the improvements and the activities and all the things that make me proud to live here in Marysville. In regards to yet another question about ICE and stuff, I apologize.
Don't. That's what this is for.
It's, I want to bring up that the police agencies are held to a higher standard.
Mhm.
And it seems like with ICE involved, they might be escalating more than what they should be trained for. And so with the police chief and the police, they're doing an excellent job. They're held to a higher standard. I guess I'll get right to the question
Sure.
of how is the city ensuring compliance with the Keep Washington Working Act?
Yeah.
Because the Keep Washington Working Act seems like a buffer or safeguard to make sure that there's no overreach or go beyond.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And so we'll address one thing that I said, which I agree with, I think is important, is I think you are experiencing a problem with federal agencies that aren't trained to do urban policing, and it's creating a lot of problems. And they just don't have the proper training. They're not involved like our officers in 6 months of academy, followed by a whole bunch of other things. So it's a really good point you make, a fair point. I think a point the federal government's starting to come to a painful realization of. To your point on Keep Washington Working, it does create a buffer, and we comply with it. We will continue to comply with it. But I think your state lawmakers would say too, they don't supersede a federal agency. You know what I mean? So that state law doesn't govern what a federal agency does. Now, one of the other questioners mentioned that state officials were looking at some other options. We'll see what they come up with, but I have yet to see a state that came up with an option that could govern a federal agency. It can provide the buffer down to the city level and the county level, but it can't go the other direction.
Okay.
At least constitutionally that I've seen. We'll see what happens, I guess. It's a really, really good, thoughtful question, though.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Nothing online? Oh, good. Okay.
Jason Gerlach, just because we're talking about budget today, I'm just curious, is the city of Marysville setting aside any funds for any families impacted by the hostilities by ICE?
Well, we do a budget every 2 years. So the last budget we passed was in 2024. And no, there's nothing in that budget for what you mentioned.
There's nothing that you can pull from or anything of that nature to assist families. You know, there's people that are scared to go to school, people that are scared to go to the hospitals, people scared to go to church, people scared to go to the store, people scared to go to work. Is there any resources available that Marysville can provide to them?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, I guess, provide an option for a specific program that would help that, and we can see, but there's no specific budget item for that in the 2024 budget that governs the 2025 and 2026 spending. I don't know that there is in any city budgets, to be honest with you. I've never seen that, but maybe if you show me an example, we could see if it complies with one of our budget directives. If you have another city example where that is provided.
No examples. I just
Oh, okay.
I just figured that, you know, there's funds. The city of Marysville has funds. I would imagine that they would have some kind of funds somewhere that they can assist these families with.
What specifically assistance would you, I would need an example to see if they're like to drive them somewhere, or
I mean, they're scared to go to the store to get food. Maybe help the pantries, help bring them food to their homes, or
we do support. We do have a food bank that does support that. We have a Meals on Wheels program that I think was part of our community development block grant fund. So there's a specific that So if you provide some specifics, then
So not much action. Just, you know, it is what it is.
I'm not sure what you're asking. You haven't provided a clear example, or I just answered the one with Meals on Wheels and food bank. So thank you. Any other questions? Online? One final call. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you again for coming out. It has been a pleasure. It's one of my favorite events of the year. And I look forward to continuing to hold coffee clutches. So if you've never attended a coffee clutch, we hold them a lot of times right here in this room for about an hour and just do straight Q&A like this. Sometimes it goes a little over an hour. We'll try to get some of them out in the community as well. So I hope to see you at some of those. And the door is always open. I answer all my own emails, return all my own phone calls. So if something didn't get answered here, come up and talk to me, give me a call, or send me an email. Thank you. Appreciate You guys.